Derbyite, we are back once again for our weekly Outlander recap videos. Today we're talking about episode 5 of season 6, Give Me Liberty. And we have plenty to talk about, least of which is it opens up on June 1746, Scotland. Bonnie Prince Charlie is being hastily whisked away from the rebellion, wearing a bonnet and a woman's cloak. And I thought he looked fabulous. What do you think?
Well, when it first opened up, your first question was, what's going on? And
True.
so, and then it wasn't until Andrew Gower actually started talking. I'm like, oh, so we've sort of done like a little bit of a backtrack, which was actually kind of cool to see, because we didn't get to see it in any of the previous seasons of how Bonnie Prince Charlie escaped Scotland and everything like that. And so, yeah, I actually kind of thought it was pretty cool to see. But my question for you is, what was your take on the opening credits?
Yeah, so the opening credits have changed and they were all in Gaelic. And I thought they were really nice. I like the OG opening credits, okay? Like that's where I sit on opening credits. But
yeah, the OG is the best.
They were nice.
Just nice.
So, yeah.
But okay. Look, I really enjoyed them once I sort of realized what was going on. I kind of hope that we'll have the season's credits for next episode. So clearly these opening credits were to show you had the Skyboat song, and because it was in Gaelic, we were reading the subtitles that came up, and it was the original song, if memory serves correctly. So it was actually kind of nice to see the tie-in with the song and actually the Bonnie Prince escaping Scotland and all of that. And then we meet a new character by the name of Flora MacDonald.
Yeah. Actually, I should have just mentioned before we go on that this episode was written by Barbara Stepanski, and this is the first episode she has written this season so far, and directed by Christiana Eberhon Green, who also directed last episode, Hour of the Wolf. I think the whole point of that teaser about Bonnie Prince Charlie leaving Scotland is because we wanted to remind and set up who Flora MacDonald was and is. Obviously she is a dyed-in-the-wool loyalist to the crown, and then of course makes her way to the colonies and is now set up in Wilmington. I think that's where they end up when they have the ceremony for gathering. And so she's a loyalist, and it kind of then makes you think, oh, all right, so we're heading down that path of loyalists versus the people who are really for independence. And I initially thought this was going to be more of a chess piece episode, but it actually turns out that it was actually a very pivotal episode this season. It actually sets up a lot of where the season is going to end up. We don't have that many more episodes to go, but we're pretty much halfway. And we're going to see now, I think, this push and pull between those people who are loyal to the crown and those, and you know, their arguments actually sound quite valid, because they're coming from a place of, you know, they probably don't know better, and they think that Britain is Mother England is probably the best place to kind of look after the colonies. And then you've got the people who really want independence and freedom. And of course, we'll talk about this a bit later, and what does freedom and independence actually mean. So I really, really liked this episode. I thought it was very well written.
I liked the writing. I confess, I did like the writing. I felt that it skipped. Now, we've seen how big this book is. I just felt like it skipped quite a lot of stuff. And we can circle back to them later. But like, for example, one thing that I felt was very quickly covered was the whole Fergus and Marsley storyline. Like, because he wasn't in this episode, and it was very quickly, it almost felt very rushed. But considering we are halfway through the season, clearly some things needed to be cut, and there was a faster way to deal with Fergus and Marsley and their story for anyone who knows the books, moving on and how they end up where they end up. I appreciate that. But there were a lot of little things in this episode that you really needed to focus on or take note of, because generally did feel like just a chess piece, but there are a lot of little bits going on that you got to pay attention to.
Yeah, I think the Marsley Fergus storyline, yeah, I felt like it was a bit rushed as well. And look, sometimes we can be critical of this show, and that's okay. Like, we don't have to always be like pom pom rah rah, the show's the best and that's it. I felt like some of the choices that Christiane Ebon-Green as the director made, I felt a little weird. And like there was a few like shots, like, for example, of a bloodied hand, or just some choices made by the editor and by the director that I felt like the episode felt a little stilted, because there's so much story for them to cover, and you can see the telegraphing that they're trying to achieve with this whole, with the looming War of Independence coming up. And you know, it's mentioned a few times, probably maybe a little bit too, like, obviously, like there wasn't a lot of nuance in the episode. But I found it still pretty engaging, and I was with it the whole time, but I just felt every once in a while I felt like, oh, I don't know about the choices made in the show. It sometimes needs to be more nuanced, and that's going to be hard to explain. But
yeah, no, I think I know what you're getting at. I still love the show, still love the episode, loved a lot of the choices that they chose, but you sort of had like, we sort of had to pause a couple of times and go, hang on, what's happening in this scene? So we sort of had like the scene with Bree. We finally get to see Bree. She does something this episode, but we see Bree and the other women, and they come across this little fire pit with bones. And they're like, okay, so what's that? Then we sort of jump to Roger and Amy McCallum, and then you're like, oh, okay, what's happening here? And then you go to Wilmington, where they're having this gathering for Flora McDonald, and then you're like, why is there tension here and there? And then you sort of really had to we had to go back and sort of figure out, I almost feel like we missed something, like to join the dots for us, instead of having for us to Google or check. I felt like there were bits missing to tie one episode to the other. I don't know even know if that makes any sense, but yeah.
Let's track back to and go through some of the highlights of the episode. Do you want to do a reenactment of your reaction to when the words David Berry came up on the screen, or?
No, let's not, shall we?
I think you should.
I can't remember. It was something like,
no. It was, oh my God, David Berry. That's what it was.
Yeah, but don't forget I did it for Maria Doyle Kennedy as well.
And then I went, oh, Maria Doyle Kennedy, cool. But David Berry, you know, we love him. He's Aussie. We literally passed by him at one of the premieres we went to a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
We should have accosted him as Outlander fans, but we thought we'd leave him alone, COVID and all. But yes, I love little bit of David Berry. I do appreciate him as an actor, but you were like, I thought you were going to jump up off the seat.
No, I was just very enthusiastic to finally have two, including Aunt Jocasta, finally back in the show. I love those two characters. The more I watch Outlander, the more I appreciate the character of Lord John even more so. And just speaking of David Berry's performance in the entirety of this episode, like, I think I even said to you in one of the scenes towards the end, I think it was the last scene of the episode with David Berry in it, the look he gives Jamie, like, broke my heart. Like, I don't know how I'd love to know what he was thinking about while the camera was on him, to get that pained look in his eye. Like, oh, I thought I knew you, but I really don't sort of look, but I still can't help but love you. Yeah, that really got to me, that very last scene.
There's a lot of complicated acting there from David Berry, because my notes say at first, because it's like a running joke for me, that Lord John Grey looks at reformer Jacobite Jamie like he's a chicken drumstick. So he still looks at him with, like, you can just tell that if Jamie was like, you know what, Lord John,
I'm leaving Claire.
Have at it. And I reckon Lord John would just like jump him very quickly. But in that scene, when Lord John agrees to tell the men to take their time in coming to that gathering of
the Sons of Liberty,
Jacobites, I think you can see, like, you know, he still adores Jamie, and really not only in that way that we're joking about, of course there's some of that there, but there's also a deep admiration, respect. You know, he's got William, you know, he's like family at this rate. And but also I felt like he was actually a bit not heartbroken, but more not betrayed, but just like a bit, like, it's just
not really even disappointed.
Just disappointed that, like, he wasn't in Jamie's circle anymore. Like, he knows now that they're on opposite ends of the spectrum. And that's really upsetting to him.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's exactly a good description of it. That's exactly how I perceived that particular scene as well. And I was just like, oh.
So, like,
break my heart again.
That, I just said the episode didn't have enough maybe nuance, and I did mean that in other ways, but that was a scene where it really works. And that is
we were both enthralled in that scene.
That, I mean, you actually said, I recall you saying, geez, David Berry, he's such a good actor. Like, that is a testament to both of them. Like, I mean, we're going to talk about Sam Heughan in a minute. Like, we sometimes just have to stop everything and talk about this guy. But that scene in particular was very, very good. Let's actually talk about Jamie. So he has resigned as Indian agent. Governor Martin is concerned about Jamie's loyalties and to the crown, particularly given that he has the backing of all the settlers at the Ridge. And he's attending a loyalist event while surreptitiously consorting with men who share his views. So that's going to be a very interesting storyline for Jamie to have. And as usual, Sam Heughan just owns it. Like, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but he really is so underrated. We both use the word underrated when watching the episode. I don't know what's to come, but so far this would be the episode highlight for Sam Heughan, because there's not a lot of melodrama for him, crying, screaming, throwing stuff across the room. This is very, very particular, intentional, and he's a stunner. Like, he is going to be, so, I mean, he already is a superstar, but I just think it's, as soon as Sam Heughan gets that one role in a film or something that just propels him, he's going to be one of the greats. He's such a good actor.
He is, and like, just like, even going back to the scene with David Berry, even when Jamie, or when Sam's giving those lines that, yes, I'm going to be attending the meeting. And he goes, oh, to get, info? No, attend the meeting. Like, even he had a hard time giving Lord John this information and pretending, and then the whole facade that he had at the gathering, trying to like nod and say yes and wear one mask and wear a different hat. He's got a lot of stuff happening. And then defending the printer because it was for Aunt Jocasta.
He defends that printer. And then he goes to the meeting, and that's where he has a speech about what is freedom. Freedom is not tarring and feathering the guy who's just trying to make it. He's got a business to run, and that there are his views. And so it all started to piece together by the end.
It did. It was very good. So, but yes, again, underrated.
He has a really good line where he says former Jacobites becoming loyalists or something. He says much to lose, little to gain, if only they knew what was coming. And of course, that then reminds us that we have this looming war coming that he knows about, but no one else does. So we got a very quick shot of the bollocks of Stephen Bonnet. I found that quite confronting to see in a jar. Good work from the production designer, just a smidge. Poor Stephen Bonnet. I mean, okay, we have our concerns and issues with Stephen Bonnet, but I wouldn't wish that on anyone. So sorry about that, Ed Spillies. So I'm sure he's just fine. We need to talk about the elephant in the room now.
Which particular elephant is that?
Now, it's like we don't talk about Bruno. It's like we have to say we don't talk about pregnancy. Because our favorite female actor pretty much of all time should have been an Oscar nominee for Belfast.
I know.
Also in Ford versus Ferrari. But they had to hide her pregnancy. And so obviously now Katrina Balfe is a happy mother of one. But at the time she was quite pregnant, and they're hiding it with this huge dress.
And trunk that she's unpacking.
Yes, there's always something. It reminds me of when I was much younger and watching the X-Files, and when Gillian Anderson was first pregnant, and they had to she always had a clipboard everywhere she walked. And I like that. I like it how we can always see that they're obviously trying to conceal Katrina Balfe's pregnancy.
Yeah.
But it's this is not a criticism at all. I just think it's really sweet that and good on Katrina. My God, is she a trooper? Like, what's going on? She's so tough. She's out there in cold, wet Scotland with all these dresses on and working her ass off as a producer, as an actor, and she's it's middle of
she's
COVID
pregnant to boot.
And she's preggers. Mate, if I've got a slight headache, I'm done for the day.
Let's not go there.
So good on her. She's tough, man.
Good on her.
Tough cookie. So yes, I know that every single episode we're trying to look at to see whether we can.
I'm going to try. I don't want to do that. I'm going to try not to. But when it first came on, I was like, what's happening? Is Claire meant to be pregnant? And I'm like, no, I know she only ever has Brianna. Like, what's happening? Oh, Katrina's pregnant. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to just ignore it from now on, because Claire is not pregnant. They're doing a great job, with all these layers of heavy fabric and everything. So I'm just going to ignore the elephant in the room.
Yeah, and no, the use of the terminology elephant in the room, of course, has no bearing on the beautiful Katrina.
No, we mean metaphorically speaking.
Metaphorically. Now, we need to talk about Rick Rankin. I find I'm saying that often because I just think he's a star. And
you like a bit of Roger.
I do like myself a bit of Roger from time to time. I think Rick Rankin's a really top guy. And firstly, I love it when we get a bit of singing from him. Because
I was surprised at the singing.
Why were you surprised at the singing?
Well, because in the books, Roger doesn't sing. Because after he was hung, it affected his vocal cords. And so they actually mention it in the books a few times, that he chooses not to sing, or he finds it difficult to sing, or doesn't like singing where people can hear him. So I was actually really happy that we heard him sing. It was actually really sweet.
Well, maybe we could...
So I loved it.
We could circle back and thinking about the two superfans that we've talked to so far, the lovely Diane Manning and, of course, Dimity Stathos. I just think that they would probably be saying right now that was a bit of a continuity issue, because
it is
with the singing. I'd love to hear from them both. If you happen to be watching this, ladies, please send us an email or something, because I'm curious to see what you think, because that didn't occur to me until you just mentioned it.
But I love hearing him sing.
I'm happy to hear him sing. I want to talk more about the psychology of Roger, because we did talk about this. We did talk about this a bit, because we both had conflicting views, but of course, I saw both sides of the argument, because Roger feels, he obviously feels like Brianna is so brilliant and so ahead of her time that he's probably maybe feels like he can't measure up or he's not useful. And so he's attracted, not sexually, but attracted to helping out others. And he's got this lonely widow who with her children, and, you know, he's suddenly so helpful. And she then starts to see, you know, get a little glimmer in her eye for him. And it's only until Brianna says, hang on a sec, what are you doing? That's not, I don't like this. And people will start talking, that he then realizes, oh, she has a point. So he goes back one more time, has a meal with her. But then it bites him in the ass towards the end when Malva, who we'll talk about later, is like, you trying to use it against him, like to blackmail him, because the townspeople are talking about him being up there with the widow and not Brianna. So he's a very interesting guy, because this is also coming out of where he was in the present day, or whenever he, you know, when we first saw him, that he's a man who needs to feel like his place in the world is someone who is like contributing and like writing or whatever. What do you think?
Look, I agree. As you know, I side with Brianna on this topic, but I do appreciate where Roger's coming from. And like you mentioned, he was a professor back in the day. And so like I forget, I think it was, I forget what he was a professor for, but
History? Was it history?
I was going to say history. I can't remember. We could be wrong. But there's no use for someone for history. So there is a slight throwaway comment, which I'm sure the book lovers would have noticed, that he's thinking of becoming a minister because the people on the ridge don't have that yet. And we can see the Christies are building a church and they've got the bell and all that happening. And so it's sort of snowballing it. And he doesn't see going and helping Amy McCallum as anything other than ministry to him, helping someone in need, because that's what he can do. That's what he's good at, because his father / stepfather, uncle, was a minister. So that's all he really knows. And this is something Roger has struggled with for a very long time on the ridge. So, you know, here's Brianna bringing in indoor plumbing, and he is fixing a hearth the best way he knows how. But yeah, definitely he needs to back away from Amy McCallum.
Yeah. That, I think, I mean, he recognizes that, but I think
but then why go back for the meal? Why? He was already told that he went back for a meal.
Yeah, when he went in for the meal, I could just tell that you were about to lose your mind, and I'm just like, you know, he's a softie and he couldn't say no. I get it. So look, Brianna, we've talked about how Sophie Skelton's very underutilized this season, and yeah, we got a bit from her this time, but I wouldn't mind seeing a bit more. I hope there's more to come from her. We find out she's pregnant, which is awesome. So that was a lovely little scene they had together. But
that was cute.
I just feel like Sophie Skelton is probably being utilized more as a character to propel other narratives, and there's nothing really about her this season so far. And that's disappointing, but I suppose it is what it is, and we just have to trust the process.
Yeah, I think so. I think if we'd seen more of even Roger as well, I feel like we're finally on episode 5 and they get some decent screen time. So yeah, I think if there was a Roger storyline or a Brianna storyline, we probably would have got a bit more. But it's all very just sad because we're halfway through and we've only just seen them. But there could be spoilers of things to come that I'm not going to say.
Okay.
If you've read the books, you know.
Well, I have not read the books. Not thankfully, but I'm just, you know, I'm just going to be a show person, not a book person. I don't really want to talk much about Malva because I just find her to be a really just
irritating,
unlikable, irritating character. The actress playing her, I'm sorry, I've forgotten her name, is fantastic.
She's great. she's doing a great job because I don't like Malva. So yay to her.
So I have an inkling that she is around for a little while longer, and she's going to cause a whole world of pain. I don't know. I'm not going to say more. Say nothing.
I'm saying nothing.
Speaking of underrated, we were talking about Sam Heughan. We also use that phrase for the delightful Lauren Lyle. Do you want to talk us through your love affair with Lauren Lyle, because she has come a long way?
There was the scene where she, pretty much the only scene in the whole episode where she has anything decent to say or do is where she is with Brianna and she's packing up their house to move to Wilmington or New Bern, I forget which one. And when the scene ended, I remember saying to you, wow, she's come such a long way. Even in the books, I love Marceline in the books as well now, but Lauren Lyle has come such a long way. When we first saw her, we weren't meant to like her because she's the daughter of Leary, and Leary has this weird thing with Jamie, but she is just so sweet and loving, and she just would do anything for her family, and she's just trying to, be a sister to Brianna, because essentially Fergus is Jamie and Claire's stepson, foster son type thing. So it was just really sweet to have that little moment between the two of them bonding over the fact that Brianna is pregnant. So who knows what the rest of the season or even the next season has in store for Lauren Lyle, but if she's not in it as much, she will be sadly missed. That's for sure.
Yeah. Now, I want to end this recap by doing something, and then you can speak. I then welcome you to then speak to what I'm about to do, because I was going to ask a question, but I'm going to do this instead. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hopefully I can do it. I can't do it. I'm going to laugh. All right, who the hell's in the jail? Who's in the jail? Who is it? I don't know. I've got no idea.
I can tell you.
I don't. But coming at it from, all we've seen is the back of this person's head, and they're whistling a very contemporary, song from the last century. What are we supposed to glean from that?
Time traveler.
Obviously a time traveler. He had something in his hand.
What did he have in his hand?
It was a little green stone.
Come on! It was the emerald that was stolen from Flora McDonald's necklace.
Oh, okay. I wasn't paying attention.
Oh my God. You weren't paying attention. At least you're honest.
I wasn't.
He's a time traveler. I don't want to give too much away, but when I saw that, I was like, so yeah.
Okay, well, that's
give
all
me
we
more.
Can say.
Give me more.
Yeah, you sound like Britney Spears. All right. Well, I think that will be it for today. Everyone, stay tuned, because we're so thrilled to be able to bring in some chosen super fans of the show that we've met on social media. And I really appreciate all of your feedback so far. You seem to be really enjoying meeting Dimity and then Diane, or at least kind of revisiting them. You might have already met them online. Both really lovely people who really know their stuff and are passionate about the show. Well, this week we've got Stacey Henry, and I look forward to you guys meeting her. She's from Canada. So yeah, enjoy, and we will hopefully be back next week. We will either have our recap as per normal, or we might have it a few days late because we are heading off overseas for a little bit of a break. But we'll see how we go. And in the meantime, everyone stay safe, and we'll see you soon. I am so thrilled to have you on, Stacey. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
So look, we all love the show, but we've all come in different ways. You're either a book reader who came into the show, or you stumbled upon it. I'm really interested to know how you got into Outlander.
So it was something, I've been aware of the show for years, and I think I'd watched like YouTube clips here or there, spoiled myself on a few things, but I actually started watching it kind of at the beginning of lockdown in 2020. So it was one of those ones where I was like, you know what? I'm finally going to press play on Netflix. And I watched from 101 to 507 in like 7 days. It was ridiculous.
Wow.
It was ridiculous. I would start as soon as I finished work at like 5 p.m. and would watch till like 3 or 4 in the morning. And I was hooked. I couldn't get enough of it. So,
but obviously, like, you just fell in love with it from the get-go, and you just had to binge the whole thing. Like, you know how many people tell me this? Like, people that I meet at work, in meetings, like they might have seen something I've done online. They're like, "Oh, I love that Outlander. I watched it in one sitting. I love it. I stumbled upon it." Like, it's fascinating that it just seemed to hit a raw nerve with you, right? So, I mean, you want to ask the next question? Sorry.
So we could go on that about for ages, but so I've got a double-barreled question. First part is, what do you love about Outlander, and what does it mean to you? So let's start with, what do you love?
What do I love? Oh, so many things. I mean, for me, the big draw is it's Jamie and Claire. Like, it's the Jamie and Claire of it all. Like, for me, they're what totally makes the story and the show. And I just love to see this like relationship of like this like really strong, feisty, empowered woman and this man who's like not threatened by it. Like, he embraces it, right?
Yeah.
And I really, really love that. And it doesn't make him any less of a man. Like, I actually find that more amazing, right? So they both can just be themselves with each other, and they power each other, and they've been through everything and all that kind of stuff. So for me, that's what like really, really hooked me. And like Sam and Katrina are just amazing. So how can you not love it, right?
Yeah.
Very true. So would that sort of sum up what it means to you as well? Like, or does it have a whole nother meaning as well?
I mean, yeah, I mean, in terms of like what it means to me, it was a huge escape during like that first lockdown. It was like this world that, it's funny when people say it's like a comfort show, because like the most horrendous things happen in it. Like, it's so awful, but you're like, but for me, I'm always like Jamie and Claire. I'm like, Jamie and Claire are my happy place. Like, I just love their dynamic, their relationship. And the show for me was just like, I couldn't get enough of it. And I've like met friends through it now that I've managed to like meet in real life. And like, you know, as COVID restrictions started to lift and stuff, and friends from different parts of the world, that, you know, this show was like our connecting piece. So for me, it's just, I think it's like that relationship. And then for me, it also like is friendships that I've created now too. So, which is really cool.
That is so cool. I hear that a lot as well. There's the fact I've obviously, because of the job that I do, I see a lot of different shows and how the fans kind of react to it, but there's nothing like this. There is just absolutely nothing like this. And it's hard to explain the love, appreciation. Yeah, there's a few crazies, but they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But people like
such as life,
like
you know.
they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But like the people all over the world in all shapes and sizes just love this show. So thinking about how you've seen it all and you loved it, you've immersed yourself in that world, do you have a favorite episode? And if so, what is it?
Ooh, I was thinking about this. I'm going to try to not name like 10. It's so hard. I mean, I really, really, really love the season 2 finale, 213, Dragonfly and Amber. I mean, it's heartbreaking, and I hate that they're about to be separated, but I think it's like such a well done episode. And like that whole scene where they're doing like the dance at the Stones and he's sending her through, it's like magic, I think. And, you know, and then the scene where Claire goes back to Culloden and finally like says goodbye to him after all those years, like that stuff just, I don't know. I don't typically get like weepy at things, but like that one can still make me misty, and I've seen it so many times. And then, I mean, like, of course, the wedding is amazing too, because to just sort of like see these, I feel like you see these people who are forced together, but then you see them falling in love, which I think is really kind of cool too. There's so many. Faith is amazing too. Like Katrina knocked me out in that episode. So it's so good. Like it's too many.
They are pretty damn good episodes. I'm glad you said the season 2 finale because I'm a season 2 guy, and I really think that season is the best ever of the series to date. And yeah, I totally agree. Dragonfly and Amber is like, I remember talking to Tom O'Neill, who was like our founder and chief editor, and even he would call me up and say, "Did you see that episode? It's just
so good,
unbelievable,
really good."
So the way it bounced back and forth between like the 60s and like 1746, like and you're filled with dread because we know where it's going, and yet we're so invested, and you're like, but maybe she won't have to go through, even though you know she has to.
I know, like just so damn good. The show should have gotten way more like, you know, Emmy love, because it's really such quality. But you know, we're beating a dead horse when we talk about it.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
Anyway, so final question.
All right, I know you've only watched episode 1 of season 6, but what do you think so far?
I am excited. And it feels weird to say excited because I know we're in for so much pain this season.
I know, right?
Right. But I'm looking forward to it. And like, I am someone who, once I sort of caught up and season 5 ended, I did decide to go read the books. I'm currently on Bees right now, so not done it yet. But and even with the adjustments, like the Ether storyline is different from the book. For me, I'm all in. I'm like very interested to see the journey. You know, I know Katrina's gonna kill it, and I just feel like it's so real. Like, this woman has been through so much, and even the strongest of people, you know, struggle and need help, and that's okay, right? So I'm super interested to see where this season goes. The cast and everyone's been talking about how, like, you know, they're excited for everyone to see it. Diana says she loves it, which also scares me a little bit, because when she loves something, you're like, oh no, we're in for so much pain.
I know.
My heart, my blood pressure starts rising when she says stuff like that. But yeah, I totally. Yeah, season 6 is going to be so interesting. I think the Eva storyline is going to be a good one. I like it when we see characters that we love in any show dealing with trauma and how they come out of it, because I think we've all been through that in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And it'll help us empathize even further with the Claire character that everyone seems to just absolutely adore.
Absolutely.
So
agreed, totally agreed.
Yeah.
And my prediction is whenever Jamie finds out about that little secret, that's going to be some powerful television right there. So,
I know, right? I didn't get to say that in our little recap, and I'm like, when he finds out,
we're all just gonna cry together.
Explosive, or it's gonna go this way. You just don't know what you're gonna get, and that's what I love. I'm looking forward to, because I've read that book, and like I said, that's not in it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I think it's cool that a show can still surprise book readers, because ultimately the books and the shows, they are different, right? Like, like parallel universes, and that's okay. I find
that's okay. I'm wondering if they end up maybe not splitting up, of course, but if there could be some like rocky waters ahead. I have this feeling that we're in for some pretty painful stuff.
Yeah.
And I say, bring it on, give it to me, and then we'll sort it out.
Because it's Jamie and Claire, you know they're gonna find their way back no matter what. And I even think Sam and Katrina have said in interviews, like, you know, there's explosive confrontations, and they sort of there's emotional distance because they're both so distracted with things, but they always find their way back. So we're in for a journey.
That's so true to life. Stacey, thank you for your time. Thanks for your insight. That was a great chat, and I'll be looking out for you on social media. I'm really interested to see what you think about the series as we progress. But thanks again for today.
Thank you so much.